approximately 9 p.m. East African time. A very good evening to you on this 22nd day of October 2018. Here's to hoping that your week has kicked off on a positive note. I am Ondiro Ganga, ready to bring you up to speed with all the news causing waves across the globe. And as you know, we're all about business. Here's a glance of all the news making headlines in the business world. Kenya Bankers Association Youth Empowerment Program, Powering the Future. Two. Equity Week 2018, may fairness prevail. Wazari Cup, golf, anyone? The youth are said to be the leaders of tomorrow, and that tomorrow is today. It is in realization to this fact that the Kenya Bankers Association has sought to empower young entrepreneurs drawn from Nairobi's informal settlements. The youth will receive funds to start up their businesses at zero interest after undergoing entrepreneurship training under the Why Biz Now program. Our field team graced the forum, and here is the report.
Why Business program, initiated by the Kenya Bankers Association in partnership with the Kenya Community Development Foundation, is a project which seeks to enable vulnerable young people to empower themselves and transform their communities through enterprise.
Do you show like somebody who has got the capacity to pay back that money?
The Kenya Bankers Association Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Habil Olaka, broke down the aim of the Why Business program.
Indeed, this program began way back in 2017 when we decided to partner with the KCDF to support the youth who are indeed talented. They've got the energy, but that energy and talent can be put to improper use if not well harnessed. And so we thought we could partner with KCDF and try to redirect those energies and talent into good use, not only for themselves, but for the community as well.
He went on to highlight the role that KBA is playing in the program.
So what we try to do is to ensure that the youth are able to communicate their business idea in a language that the banks can be able to understand. We also try to ensure that on the other side, banks can be able to appreciate the uniqueness of the proposals from these youth and therefore be able to identify areas that banks can be able to step in to provide the necessary funding gap that is identified in the business appraisal process.
The biggest challenge faced by the youth in accessing fund is security. To this, team leader Livelihood, Environment and Climate Change at KCDF, Stella Chege, had some advice on how to overcome this challenge.
We had the issue of they don't have security for their businesses. They don't have collateral if they are going to take any loans. And so we have a hybrid where we put the youth together in a group, and they then borrow money. They borrow money as individuals, but then the groups will guarantee each other. And we work with groups that are already existing, so they are youth who know each other, they trust each other, they come from the same neighborhood, and so they were able to guarantee each other and to support each other also in setting up the businesses. The way we did it is the first part of the program. We had training. We had training for the youth in business skills. And we took them through training in, budgeting, understanding your business planning, actually taking them through the whole business planning model. And then once they had the business plan, the knowledge, we then worked with them as they developed business plans.
Brandon Joroge, a shoe seller from Mathare slums, testified on how Y-Business had benefited him.
I didn't know how to save money, simply because when I usually get the interest out of it, I used to spend it. But later on, I came to know the good side about saving, and it has really helped me. So since that time until now, I'm stable, and I thank the Kenya Bankers Association and KCDF and YADEN for the opportunity of giving us even a loan. It will make me even improve on my job and make it bigger and bigger.
With the youth being the majority in the country, it makes every economic sense to invest in them.
The more we story deadly, honey.
For universal healthcare coverage to be achieved, the government must ensure equitable distribution on national resources to the counties. This was among the key points emphasized as the Equity Week Kenya 2018 kicked off today. Organized by the International Budget Partnership Kenya at the Kenya National Theatre, the week is aimed at scrutinizing budgetary allocations by the government and the impact thereof. Take a look.
Not about the services that you want, it's about the healthcare services that you need.
Among the four key pillars of the government's Big Four agenda is universal healthcare coverage, or simply UHC. However, many a times UHC is confused for NHIF, and as Dr. Wangari Ng'ang'a, UHC Technical Advisor, Executive Office of the President, noted, the two are separate health coverage entities.
We really need to understand what universal health coverage is. Universal health coverage means everybody can access the health services that they need, and that these health services are of sufficient quality, and they access these services without going through financial hardship. So this has many, many more elements beyond money. NHIF is an insurance, a health insurance scheme that covers financial protection only, which is only one component of UHC. There is a component of access, there is a component of quality that may not be sufficiently addressed by a health insurance scheme by itself.
While financial cost is not the only factor in universal healthcare coverage, it plays a key role in both negative or positive uptake of healthcare coverage. Dr. Edwin Baraza from Kemri Wellcome Trust pointed out that this should not be the case.
The challenge with direct payment is that you can be hit by a sickness when you don't have any money in your pocket. Okay? And when you make that direct payment or out-of-pocket payment, then it presents financial challenges to you. The other challenge with direct payment is that you do not pool resources. Because if all of us contribute taxes or all of us contribute to a health insurance scheme, then we have pooled our resources. And when one of us is sick, we use those resources of that person. And then when we are sick, we use those resources on ourselves. And because of that, the cost of your contribution doesn't have to be so much. It's a manageable contribution. But when you always have to pay for yourself, then the cost will always be so much higher, and it's going to present financial challenges to you.
Universality here is that everybody is in.
With the new constitution came devolution, and services such as health were to be moved to county level. This was in a bid to improve health services at grassroots level, but that has not been the case, as Dr. Wangari noted.
To a large extent, at the beginning of devolution, this is exactly what we saw. We saw an increase in health workers. We saw an increase in ratio of health workers to population. We saw an increase in distribution of health commodities. We saw governance at the local level. This happened. But must remember that there is the PFM Act that regulates that the health budget must be structured in a 30-70 proportion, where 30 goes to development and 70 goes towards recurrent expenditure. So then, therefore, the resource budget, the resource envelope for recurrent expenditure is actually constrained. So you can only increase, for example, health workers to a certain extent. In this particular instance, what you will see is that counties are no longer able to hire doctors in the proportion they need them, because on their payroll they have very many doctors who have gone off to school, which is a right to many doctors, and it's also a right to the citizens, because we do require these specialists. We require these specialists at those very counties. So what do you do in a situation where you require specialists, but you still require medical, general medical practitioners, but the resource envelope you have is constrained?
We shouldn't be trying to protect the rich only.
Moving forward, Dr. Baraza says universal healthcare coverage is a brilliant plan that has worked wonders across the world. However, for it to bear fruit in the country, the government must do three key things.
Number one, we need to increase funding for the health sector. When you look at benchmarks that have been proposed, it has been proposed that the government should spend at least, government expenditure on health should at least be 5% of its GDP. In Kenya right now, we are doing 2.2%. So the health sector is significantly underfunded. So the question is, who is paying the gap? That gap is paid by Kenyans out of pocket and other mechanisms. But the Kenyan health sector is predominantly, or rather significantly, reliant on out-of-pocket payments. The second one is that we have to move away from voluntary contributions. We live in a country where 80% of the population are in the informal sector, which means they don't have a pay slip, they have irregular incomes. Sometimes, some months they have income, some months they don't have income, and so on. So it's unpredictable. Then only 20% of the country has, or the people that are employed has, a pay slip. So what does that mean? It means that, for example, if you ask people to pay insurance, it's only the 20% that will pay in a mandatory way. The other 80%, you have to keep on going and asking them and pleading with them to pay to a health insurance scheme. So it is voluntary. And the problem with that is that we have a situation known as adverse selection, a situation where people do not want to pay, but then when they fall sick or they know they're going to fall sick, then they pay their health insurance. And the problem with that is that then it makes that pool of finance, or rather that risk pool, very, very risky. It makes healthcare costs very, very high, and it makes it unsustainable. The third thing that the government really, or rather, stakeholders within the health system need to think about is to remember that within a society you have people who are vulnerable, we have people who are disadvantaged, we have people who can't benefit from healthcare services if you don't take that extra step to make sure that they benefit. So, for example, we have people who are disabled, we have people who are poor, we have people who are vulnerable in so many other ways, the elderly and so on. So as we design our health financing systems, we have to think about how do we design them in a way that enables these people not to be left behind.
In health economics, we have this struggle.
Health continues to be a key sector that the country continues to grapple with in terms of inadequate personnel, proper tools of practice and finance. Equity might not cure all these diseases, but would be a solid place to start. Staying with matters health, universal healthcare goal stands is a key component of the Big Four agenda, and while a lot has been done to attain it, there is still much that needs to be done. It is for this reason that the Regional Medicine Regulatory Harmonization Project in Kenya was launched today. Our reporter Karari John Wambugo today attended the official launch and brings us the following story. Take a look.
In Kenya. Now you've had
access to medicine in Africa has seen a steady increase, but inadequate pharmacovigilance regulatory capacity to process new drug registration and monitoring drug safety profiles locally remains a challenge. Speaking on behalf of the Administrative Secretary, Ministry of Health, Dr. Rashid Aman, Pharmacy and Poisons Board member, Dr. Alfred Rugendo Birichi, highlighted the steps Kenya has made in the pharmacovigilance.
Kenya has made substantial progress in this area of pharmacovigilance with the support from development and implementing partners such as the World Health Organization, Management Science for Health. Kenya is the 98th member of the WHO Drug Monitoring Program under the Uppsala Monitoring Center since May 2010. In May 2014, Kenya was nominated by NEPAD agency as a regional center of regulatory excellence, ARCO, in pharmacovigilance in Africa, providing an opportunity for other countries to learn from Kenya.
He went on to reiterate the government's commitment in pharmacovigilance.
The Kenyan government is committed to providing Kenyans with safe, quality and efficacious medical products and health technologies. Indeed, Proforma project comes at the right time when Kenya is geared towards attaining of universal health coverage.
In the East African community, efforts are underway for harmonization of technical requirements for medicines regulation. The Pharmacy and Poisons Board, head of pharmacovigilance, Dr. Christabel Haemba, on her part, pointed out significance of the forum.
Were able to get a grant in capacity building of pharmacovigilance and post-market surveillance within the region. And in this grant, it's focusing on building capacity for the people working at the regulatory authority and the universities, just to be able to have skills on pharmacovigilance. And then we are also focusing on active surveillance, monitoring of the administration of medicines within the public health program, more so the neglected tropical disease program and the vaccines program, because most of the time we realize that monitoring has been more of hospital-based, but right now we are now moving out also when they do mass drug administration. Since these are patients who come, take their medicines and go back home, and it's done maybe once a year. So we are trying to build capacity within those programs just to ensure that the vaccines and the medicines that are being given out are still maintaining the quality.
With efforts like the pharmacovigilance, it is indeed that the universal healthcare is not a black and white matter. And if it's to be achieved, a lot has to be done to this.
20 minutes for the entire process.
Welcome back to the most comprehensive, exclusively business news bulletin in the country. Thank you for staying with us. Now, on to some elections. Governors Alumni Network held their annual general meeting and elected board members who are to lead the network for the next 12 months. Our field team attended the elections and filed the following reports.
Speaking during the event, the chairperson Winnie Ngumi stated that the registration of new members was ongoing and that they would open a college of patrons that shall give guidance on corporate governance and see the growth of the network.
On who this college of patrons will be, but there are organizations and individuals who we believe can give guidance on corporate governance as we move forward and how to grow the network. Then the membership shall be as follows. We will have corporate alumni members. These are companies that took their members, their employees or their staff, their boards, their teams, leadership for the training. So these are corporate alumni members. We'll also have local alumni members. These are individuals, you and me, who paid for it themselves, who went as individuals and did the course. We also have members who are regional and international, and they've been very well represented during this summit. And we'll also recognize them as they can register and become members of the alumni network. Their fees is there, and it will be communicated, and it's payable in dollars.
She continued to urge organizations that have shown leadership in the implementation of corporate governance to join the College of Patrons.
So any organization that is undergoing transformation or is showing leadership in implementing corporate governance, the principles of corporate governance, we believe can be in the College of Patrons, and they will help support the growth and development of the network.
With no major changes in the team that was in leadership, Winnie Ngumi, who has been providing corporate strategy, business development and operations leadership, retained the chairperson's seat, while Francis Asuna, a seasoned consultant with a varied expertise of over 29 years in areas of hydrology and corporate governance, among others, remained the vice chairperson.
Say aye.
Jacqueline Waihenya, an advocate of the High Court, was retained as secretary to the network, while Lois Wafula took the position of the treasurer. Stephen Wangaji, Ellen Seba, Professor Godric Bulitia and Mukhtar Abdullahi were appointed as directors of the network.
In October 25th,
With all stakeholders advocating for the implementation of corporate governance and more resources being made available to organizations on this front, there is hope that soon good corporate governance will be a reality rather than a pipe dream. For BrandPlus TV Business News, I am Elsa Atieno.
Who, if you want to say...
Connect Summit officially kicks off tomorrow to showcase how technology can be harnessed in the attainment of the Big Four agenda. To usher in the summit, a golf tournament dubbed Waziri Cup, sponsored by Atlantis in partnership with Telcom, went down today at Karen Country Club. Our reporter Day Sombo attended the event to catch up with the sponsors, and this is what they had to say.
The golf tournament saw various dignitaries participate, led by the ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru, West Pokot County Senator Sam Pogisio, among others. The head of commercial services of Atlantics Technologies, one of the summit sponsors, Paul Njoroge, spoke on their brand and being promoters of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative.
We're actually a Kenyan firm. We do end-to-end IT solutions. That's providing everything from hardware to software to training to support. So we're really focused on actual Kenyan know-how, Kenyan ingenuity as well.
He continued to add on what the company expects to achieve from the Connect Summit.
Tomorrow, our expectations are to actually have a chance to showcase some of the technology that we're working on and trying to deliver and help restore the confidence in a lot of Kenyan companies, Kenyan ingenuity and technology, and obviously have some form of harmony and draw the synergies and everything to work towards the common goals.
All eyes are now peered on the Connect Summit, which is celebrating 10 years of existence, and with it, we hope that technology showcase starting tomorrow will go a long way in helping the country attain its development agenda. For BrandPlus TV Business News, I am Daisy Wambua.
Let us take a look at how the markets performed today, and here is a summary. That is just a summary of how the markets performed, but for more in-depth analysis of the same, tune in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for my next Big Bet with Rachel Nderitu and Karanja Daniel. Now let's take a look at the day's weather reports. That was it from our business news desk tonight, but do make sure to tune in at 9 p.m. tomorrow for a fresh serving of news-making headlines in the business world. Have a good night.